Welcome to everybody who is joining us today. As you can pretty much see on your screen, we are having Pastor Olivier Katshunga today. Those that are much closer to him will have much more friendlier nicknames, but I've chosen to call him Pastor O because for me that's that's the space that he represents. And we've got him today because among some of the individuals that I've watched and interacted with on different levels, he has shown to be a very genuine individual in terms of whatever he involves himself in. And we just thought today to have him on board, and we thank him for his time as well, just to share, or rather to get to know more about Olivier the man, if we can put it that way, just to get some of his inspiration, just to get some of how he basically plans his life around as far as he's prepared, of course, to share. So thank you very much for coming on board.
Thank you for having me, Bongo. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. What some of the things that we perhaps just to ease it in for some people who may not, I think you're much more well known than I may even think, given all the platforms that you're on. But for that individual who it may happen that perhaps they've not yet
Yeah.
come to know you, if you don't mind just giving us a bit of call it a teaser. What is the one thing perhaps that you know that most people don't know about you? I know there probably aren't many.
Yo, bro, I think I'm an open book, so there's not much anyone wouldn't know. Uh, there's nothing. I can't really think of anything anyone wouldn't know. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Hmm.
Good
And
timing.
and perhaps
Yeah.
and perhaps to aid some of our listeners before we go into the other questions that we've prepared,
Yeah.
Olivier and his wife Angie, they have a Angie and Oli YouTube channel, which we'll put a link to on this platform as well in the comment section. If you are interested, they've got some of the coolest content that you will ever come to meet when it comes to young couples and even just around the area of dating. So please do have a look if you have not yet had a look. So thank you very much. And perhaps just to step in there, we've spoken about principles in terms of the things that guide someone's life, the things that
Yeah.
a person holds quite dearly. And you've shared publicly before the space that you grew up in terms of being a pastor's child. So
Yeah.
how have you come together to form or rather to identify which of the principles that you now live your life after were the ones that were key? Basically, we're just looking for some sort of an idea how you came to decide so these things are important to me. And perhaps you can
Mm.
just share a few of those things, then we will take it from there.
Yeah. Look, I think coming to a decision of what's most important, I think it's not something that was conscientiously done per se,
Mm-hmm.
but you come to that place based on modeling, right? So when you've seen something happen and you've seen the result of something and you kind of decide, I want that for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think modeling is so important in life because people can theory is theory, right? But practice is what really convinces and converts, right? So most of what I base my life on is because I've seen it with my parents and I've seen it with my dad on the masculine side that this stuff works, and I've seen it work firsthand. Therefore, I want to apply that for myself, and I haven't been disappointed in that regard. But a lot of it also is just being given the room to study as well. I think one of the worst things you can do is build your life based on a third person experience.
Mm.
Uh, so that's very detrimental to yourself because you never really know. So the freedom to study, the freedom to compare, the freedom to basically do a SWOT analysis of different things in life and come to that decision that this is actually better than the other is what has allowed me to kind of base my life on a few key principles. I think one of the principles that really is one of the main things for me is people matter, right? So no one is an island, no one lives on their own, no one kind of functions as an individual. People matter. And I've seen that modeled in the way that my parents took care of people that didn't have any way to pay them back, and down the line, many years later, you see that relationship actually being fruitful and beneficial. And you actually see that investing in people, you never really lose out on anything, right? The other one is generosity in that when you give, you never really lose out when you help someone out, right? Whether it be like something huge or maybe just going out of your way to give someone a lift down the road, you never lose out because whatever you put out there, someone who's more secular would say the universe pays you back. But I'm not a secularist. I'm not like I believe that God has principles that he established the world on, right? And every time you give, you open yourself up to receiving as well. But every time you don't give, you also close yourself to receiving opportunities. So I'd say those are the two main principles that I try to live my life on: that people matter and generosity always wins. And I guess many of the other things are offshoots of those two.
Mhm. Mhm. No, I thank you, man. I like the part about generosity because even besides from you, I've had a lot of people sharing, call it, I don't want to say testimonies, but sharing their experiences of how you and your family have come to help them. By family now, I mean your family, you and your
Yeah,
wife and your children. So I know there's a testament, there's a backup to what you're speaking about there. Perhaps to just bring, I don't know whether to call it a spin on that.
yeah,
How do you deal with it when people have got certain expectations around you in terms of
mm,
being generous, but
yeah,
at
yeah,
that point you cannot be. Like, people tend to have that expectation that because you are someone who lives by these particular values,
yeah.
it's like automatic that every time I ask for something from you, it must happen, or I can expect it to happen, say, within a week type of vibe. So how do you handle situations where, even though perhaps you want to be, but it's just not
Yeah.
the right time, or things like that?
Look, if I don't have, I don't have. I can't,
Mm.
I can't, I can't manufacture something that doesn't exist,
Mhm.
or at a stretch, I can't penalize my own family negatively, especially if it's not like God instructing me to do something, right?
Mhm.
If I don't have the resources when you need them, I'm not going to be able to help you. And I'm okay saying, look, I can't help you right now. But I will at times go out of my way to try and find other ways to help you, maybe by reaching out to people I know that might be able to. That's if your need is a legitimate emergency.
Mhm.
If you tell me, look, I need a new pair of shoes, that's not necessarily an emergency that would require me to kind of do that. But if you're saying, look, I'm going to be kicked out of my house if I don't pay the outstanding 2,000 Rand, whatever, if I don't have it, it's still an emergency. So I'll try my best to help. But at the end of the day, if I don't have it, I don't have it. You can't give what you don't have.
Mhm.
This applies both in terms of material resources and every other type of resource. Emotionally, if you don't have it, you can't give it. That's like a whole different rabbit hole you want to get into. But I think I like giving. I enjoy it. I think it makes me feel nice when someone else is happy and their
Mhm.
problem is resolved. And I think I also, so like it's almost like an adrenaline rush as well. Like I get an endorphin rush from helping someone. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily because I'm an amazing magnanimous guy, but like I grew up in this stuff. It's what I know. I've seen my parents do it, so it's just part of who I am. So it's not something I can really brag about as something I've developed or worked super hard to get as an individual. That's why I said in the beginning, modeling is
Practice.
important. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's what I do. Like if I can help, I definitely will help. If I can go out of my way to help, I will. But if I don't have the ability, I don't have the resources, or I can't help you entirely, I'll do what I can. I'm limited as well as an individual, so I do what I can. That's the long and short of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. No, no, no. The reason I'm asking this question is because there tends to be an expectation, particularly at this point. I'm going to address you as Bishop's son. There tends to be that expectation that whatever is put on your table, you
Yeah.
must always give a yes type of a response, even
Mm.
if the effort to actually fulfill whatever is being requested is at the cost of your own family and things like that. So that's perhaps just what we were looking at there.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, perhaps if you can touch on, you are involved in quite a lot of things. You got True Soldier, you've got radio, you've got pastoring, you've got your family, you got work,
Yes.
and many other things that I probably don't know about. But we just wanted to find out, how do you, other people will call it balancing your time, but how do you share your time in all these different responsibilities that you've got?
Yeah. It's not super scientific. in that I don't have like a system or an algorithm that I utilize. But people might have heard this said about juggling different balls. It's all about knowing which ones are the most fragile that you should never drop. You know, there are certain things that you can have up in the air because you've got the capacity. But if something needs to fall, that one should because you can pick it up later, right? So for me, for example, radio is a rubber ball. You know, I can drop it, I can pick it up, it will bounce back up. You know, that falls into the whole scope of whatever I do that I enjoy doing that that are not necessarily critical to either my livelihood or are not in any way adversely going to affect my desired end goal for my life, right? Talking about vocation and passion and God's purpose for my life. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And then there's certain elements that you can't drop because once you drop them, it's a lot of work to pick it
Come
up.
back to
Either
that.
because it's a really heavy metallic ball, where you're going to have to drop everything else to pick it up again and then to start over, or it's super fragile, like a glass ball, and once it falls, you can't recover it. You know, you're done. So for me, those ones would be like family. You know, I can't neglect my wife and then come back to her a year later. You know, it's
Out on
not that.
vacation.
You know what I mean? I can't put a pause on that. I can't be like, yo, listen, for the next year I'm single.
Yeah.
I've got stuff to do. I'll be back in a year. You know, that's not something I can just pick back up. You know, like, hey, I'm back. You know,
True.
um,
Yeah.
I can't do the same thing with my children, for example. I can't just be like, yo, listen, you don't have a dad for the next year because I'm pursuing a social media career. You know, and then once that picks up, I'll come back. Another example would be like church and ministry in my regard, and because that's part of my purpose in life, part of what I believe by variety of means is part of what makes who I will be and what my contribution to the world is. So whatever those key elements are, and obviously you can become more systematic in your approach and really classify them even further. But they're like, in simple terms, there are balls you cannot drop, balls you cannot afford to drop that you need to keep juggling. And then there are those that you can add because you have the ability or the extra time. But if things get tight, you can drop those and then keep juggling these ones. So that's kind of how I try to do it. So everyone's got 24 hours in a day. I try to use as many of those as I can. So a lot of the non-essential balls are being juggled at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, midnight, because it doesn't affect the essential times, you know. Uh, but the essential times in the day. So this might be different for you because maybe you're a nocturnal person. So you do your most critical stuff at night.
That
So
matter.
it all depends on your setup. But during the day, I'm a very simple guy. I'm at work during the day. I'm not like a full-time pastor, for those who don't know. So I still have a what they call a secular job. So during the day, 8 hours of the day, like every other regular person, I'm at work. In the mornings, I wake up, I'm in the gym, take my kids to school. I like to drive my wife to work as well. It's a good time to chat and hang out. And then I do my regular work day. After work, get back home, hang out with the kids a little bit. When they go to bed, depends on wifey. If she's tired and she falls asleep, then that's great, and I can start juggling those other random stuff. And then so that's pretty much my basic regular day, you know. So yeah, I think that's how I try to juggle it. The essential times I give to the most critical non-negotiables, and then whatever extra time I can, as much as I can, I give to everything else that I can put up in the air.
Cool, cool. I like the part about a rubber ball. I figure
Yeah,
out which of your responsibilities are not as heavy metal as you called it. And
yeah, yeah,
the idea that we're looking at there as well is along the lines of normally when you hear someone respond to this question, it's people
yeah,
that are like approaching 60, 65. These people have seen their grandkids as well
yeah,
come through. So there's a huge order of experience, if I can call it that way, that goes with that response. But it's also nice
yeah,
to hear it from someone who is still, call it, building their lives in a way. People, someone in our age group, because sometimes we put ourselves under so much pressure in that sense that
yeah,
when you're hearing it from a 70-year-old, somebody speak about it, you also want to put yourself at that level there and there without opening yourself up to the evolution of time and just
yeah,
even your own growth as well. So it's nice
yeah.
to hear. I like the part about rubber balls. Really, I'm gonna take that for myself.
Now you can have it, bro.
I'm gonna take that for myself. Yes, then you're somebody who works with a lot of young people, like a lot of young
Yeah,
people. And sometimes when we are looking into, I don't want to say future proof in the sense that you've got it all figured out as a young person, but when we are looking at young people and sometimes looking to give advice, there's that question that normally comes around: what are some of the skills that you think, say, a 20-year-old, someone who's just stepping out of varsity or is in the final years of varsity there, could be looking to learn, and particularly within your space as well, which is very, how do I put it? It interacts with a lot of individuals, whether from a work point of view, from a church point of view, from all the
yeah.
other vocations that you spoke about. So, what are some of the skills, perhaps, if you can speak to that you think as a young person, someone should be pushing to learn
Yeah.
that will set them up much better in the future?
Yeah, I want to preface before I answer, just like a little side note, is
Okay.
that there's a big danger, like in a lot of advice given to young people,
Mm-hmm.
that is so futuristic and future focused that we basically create a group of people that don't live in their present,
Mm-hmm.
and they're constantly thinking about what I need to be in the future. And you have a lot of young people that become old before they need to be
Still
old.
planning.
Exactly. So, for example, if you're a teenager, you have to be a teenager, you know? Let's not tell someone, listen, you're 12 years old, but already think about what you're going to do in varsity. That's not like what we need to be doing. What we need to say is be 12, but these are the things that when you're 12, don't do them
Mm-hmm.
because they will jeopardize your options when you get to choosing something at varsity. So there's a very, very, very huge difference in how you present that.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd recommend to any young person who's looking to become, how do I say, like invaluable and a really key asset moving forward in terms of, I'll talk in terms of the secular economical work type environment, is invest in learning languages. Like it sounds crazy and childish, but knowing multiple languages really opens doors that few other things do. Like I'm working, the work I'm doing now, I've got such a niche capability because of my language skill set. So there are people I work with that are a lot better than I am at what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have opportunities that they can't even access because they don't speak the
Can
languages
speak
I
the
do,
language.
you know? There's certain clients I speak to and I have great relationships with for no other reason than the fact that I can relate to them in a language that they're more comfortable with. So the only advice I would give, I guess, in attachment to the language thing, is to really be open to cultures. There's a huge danger of becoming very siloed in I'm from this place. I surround myself uniquely with people from this place, you know? And I'm not just talking about white people and racism. I'm talking about like all sorts of things. Classism, it covers classism, it covers xenophobia. If I'm from the DRC, there's really no need for me to have everyone around me be from the DRC.
From
You're
that side.
limiting yourself. The world is a huge place, you know? Having a different perspective on an issue can really be the difference between life and death. So, in attachment to that language skill set, learning a different language is really surrounding yourself with a very mixed, diverse group of people. As diverse, be like be intentional about doing that. You know, like don't be a type of individual just stays with what's comfortable. Because once you're in a continuous comfortable bubble, you don't really get to stretch. If everyone around you drives a GTI
Mm-hmm.
and you guys all feel like you're the best in the world, you're going to be there forever. But if you start hanging with people who drive Porsches and Ferraris, something in you, like a positive peer pressure that says, yo, if they can do it, you know, maybe I can
What
also
can
level
that?
up. You know? If you're always surrounded with people that only think at your level or are only working in the sectors you work in, you know, all your friends are finance people, you're limiting yourself because all you're talking about is finance stuff. But what's happening in engineering? What's happening in politics? What's happening in different sectors? And then you can actually start looking at opportunities to cross-pollinate information and say, if I can add a political aspect to my finance, all of a sudden I'm a very unique finance guy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like every other finance person. Or if I'm an engineer who also has a very well established understanding of economics and taxation and all type of stuff, all of a sudden I'm a very different engineer, you know? I'm not just out there doing spreadsheets, but I actually can use the money I'm making in engineering and apply it elsewhere. So it's very important to be intentional about surrounding yourself with as diverse a group of people, not just in terms of race, not just in terms of language, but in terms of the sectors of society they work in. Because it really, number one, keeps you humble. It's always good to have people that are doing much better than you, right? It keeps you in check.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps you stay motivated. It also helps you stay grateful, and it keeps you hungry. Those are important things. If you're the best in the room, you're always going to feel like the best guy and you won't be challenged to do anything more. But if you know you're not the best, you have something to work towards. If you're
Mm-hmm.
the worst in the room, you might just always slip into a deep hole of depression. But if you're not always the worst in the room, you're grateful for what you've been able to achieve, you know? So it's a very good thing to do, like intentionally do that, because human tendency is to naturally go to what is most comfortable, which is people who are exactly like you, who think exactly like you, who do exactly what you do. That's the most comfortable, thoughtless place we go to. But to actually create an environment of diversity that challenges you and does all these things, you have to be intentional about it.
No, we don't want that confrontation of when you first
It's
meet, and then
challenging.
you must try and find a place where you fit and all those kind of things. You just want, if you are square, you just want squares because it's
Exactly.
easier to sit next to squares and stuff.
Because even in terms of ideology, like I'm a Christian guy, but a lot of people that I would call good friends of mine are not Christian, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
might be atheist or agnostic or whatever, but I
I know
still like
those.
them as people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. I don't feel inadequate as an individual to say I haven't been able to convert them, as what many Christians will say. But the issue is, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. You know, if I'm presenting something that is in fact what I think it is, then maybe you won't change on my watch necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but the truth will set you free eventually. So we have robust discussions about certain things, and that's where it becomes important to know your story. You know, you can't claim a particular set. Talking in terms of gangster terms, you can't claim to be part of something, and then when you're challenged, your
You
your
cannot
your
stand
defenses
up for
go
it.
up, and you can't sustain an argument about it. You know, someone talks about the Big Bang Theory. What are you going to present as an alternative? You know, someone comes and starts talking about science and astrophysics. What do you present from your Bible that can provide a proper argument instead of just saying I believe, therefore? You know, uh, yeah.
Which is
So it's
very easy
important.
to do.
Yeah. So
Because
to
no one
avoid
can. Yeah.
situations, just become people, just surround ourselves with everyone that agrees what we agree with, so that our ideologies, our way of thinking never gets challenged, we never grow, and at the same time we just feel comfortable.
And more often than not, the biggest growth opportunities or experiences are the ones where you do them and you're uncomfortable while you're doing it.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm. Mhm. No, but thank you very much for coming through. I think you've touched on even the other ones that you wanted to add there at the end. We're grateful for your
Nice. Sorry for
time.
babbling.
Sorry?
Sorry for babbling. I'm a talker.
No, we'll take that. We'll take that. Perhaps to close it off with a soft one, with a soft one there.
Hmm.
How has fathering been for you? I know it's outside what we've been speaking about, but
Yeah,
just your experiences.
that's one of my glass balls, bro. Like I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Hmm.
I've got one daughter and one son, so basically one of each, which is nice. Yeah, like you can see the differences in both. But I think more than anything else, I think parenting in general
Mm.
really puts things into perspective. Just how naturally you become obsessed with making sure these people are good, even though they don't have anything to offer you. You know, like like I'm literally every no, I'm serious. Like everything you do for your kids, it's not like they've come with a contract that you're gonna sign, say in the next 20 years I'm gonna give
18
you.
years of a comeback.
I'm saying it's just I think it opens up your mind to realize how amazing human beings can be naturally. Like you're just so magnanimous towards people that have never done anything for you, and you realize that we can actually be better than we normally are. So I've seen a lot of flaws in myself as well,
A
and that
mirror.
children ask a lot of questions, and you have to know what you're answering, or you just start shouting at them for no reason. You
Send
know.
them to Netflix.
Exactly. So yeah, you have to learn. It challenges you to learn. So there's a lot of stuff, but it's been good.
No, that's good, man. That's good to hear. No, thank you for coming through, and we're grateful as well to those little bunnies for giving us their dead, even though they may have not actively agreed to it. But we were grateful nonetheless that
Ah,
you
so
came through.
good.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
my electricity, my Wi-Fi, they have no say, bro.
Cool, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bonga.